It's the Ross Tucker Football Podcast.
Oh, yeah, it is. But it's not just any Ross Tucker Football Podcast. It is a Wisdom Wednesday, and as promised, we're going to get the wisdom from a former Wilson Bulldog from Wyomissing. I'm trying to say as many W's as I can right now, who just won the Super Bowl and promptly retired. I told you we would get Chad Henne on the show sometime soon. That's exactly what we'll do. We got, by the way, a lot of feedback from yesterday's show. Maddie Levy, one of the 200 million people that doesn't watch the Super Bowl. I thought it was hilarious. A lot of you did. Some of you didn't like it. We'll get into that a little bit later. I'll also get into the winner stuff a little bit later. I want to get right to Chad. It's Big Show time.
The Big Show.
All right, so this is at least the third time that Chad's been on the show. So most of you already know we're from the same hometown, although we went to kind of rival high schools. I've known about him since he was like 7th or 8th grade when his dad told me about him. But most importantly for our purposes right now, he just won the Super Bowl again and just retired. Like, he had this awesome Instagram picture. He's drinking a beer, not our official sponsor, so I won't even say the name of the beer. But he's drinking a beer, says, that's it, after 15 years. So, Chad, thanks for coming on the show again, man. Really appreciate this. He's doing this right before he takes his kids to school. Yes, we are real people that take our kids to school. So I guess I just want to start, Chad, with when did you kind of know that this year was it?
I think just earlier on, going into the season, I think just talking with my family and just how my body felt and my mind, where my mind was at, I felt like this could be it. And obviously capping it off with the Super Bowl, what better way to go out? So it's definitely icing on the cake. My goal to get, once I got into the league, was 12 years. I pushed 3 years past and finally felt like this was it.
Okay, so a lot of interesting things there. So first of all, why was 12 the goal? Why was that the number?
I don't know. Ever since I got in the league after I graduated in Michigan, I've just felt like, hey, 12 is a good number. I mean, a lot of people say 10, 10's a great career, but I don't know. I just felt like 12 is a good number, and I got hurt my 12th year, so definitely couldn't end on that note. So I pushed past 3 more years.
All right, so Chad, you mentioned how your body was feeling and kind of where you were at mentally. I'm hoping you could dive into that a little bit deeper. How was your body feeling earlier in the year? And then what was kind of the mentality? How much of it was, listen, I don't have the desire to continue to work at this level? Or was it, I really want to go back, to Pennsylvania and start the next phase of my life? I'm sure all those things are a factor, but if you can kind of go a little bit deeper into what your mindset was and how your body was feeling.
Yeah, I think anything. OTAs and off-season training isn't a problem, but us old guys, once we get into training camp, and Andrew Reid runs one heck of a training camp, so that dives on you too. You're staying in a dorm room up at a Division II school, so that plays a part into it. But I felt like towards the end, my body felt great in the beginning, and at the end, it didn't feel great, and then it recouped once we got into the season. But it's just a daily basis. Once you go into Monday, Tuesday, all the film work that we do, all the training that we still do, I'm still squatting, still trying to keep my body strong, which I love to do, but at the same time, it's like the recovery factor is longer and longer as you get older, and just mentally going through the process throughout the year is just, it's tough. And I definitely see my kids each and every day. I miss some of their activities, and some of that stuff I just want to dive into.
It's so funny, man. I talk about this a lot when I talk about Brady, but even for you, I noticed the difference even from like when I was 22, 23, 24. Now, that might have been because I had the back surgery, but I noticed the difference from my early 20s to when I was 27, 28, just in terms of how I felt after a workout. And I retired at 28, and then I can even remember like early 30s, whether I had a big night out or like working out. And I remember thinking, man, it's crazy that guys are still playing the NFL, because your body's definitely not the same in your early 30s as it was in your 20s, and you did it till your late, mid to late 30s. And just anything I do, like any type of workout or even just like skiing, like it's just not the same.
Well, I mean, you're different. I mean, obviously you played in the trenches, so your body's getting thrown around a lot more than mine. But at the same time, it's just even the mental factor. Like I love preparation. I love diving into film and learning. But at the same time, it's just a lot of work. You're talking about, I mean, getting there at 6 a.m. and not leaving until 6 p.m. We're almost an extension of the coaching staff, but they're there another 5 more hours. So it's a long day as a quarterback. It's mentally straining. And then on top of that, you play the physical factor as well.
Any chance, let's say something happens to Mahomes or Shane Buechele, let's say he's the quarterback. I actually talked with him at the Super Bowl. Had a great chat with him. I'm going to play that interview later on in the offseason. But let's say something happens in Kansas City in particular, but it could be somewhere else. Maybe it's Philly, and maybe they need a good backup, and you could still live in Reading. You could still live in and do the commute. Any chance you'd have any second thoughts?
I don't know. I'll never say never, but right now my mind's made up, and we're packing right now in Kansas City and heading back to Pennsylvania in 2 weeks. So we'll see what happens. But right now, I just wanted to concentrate on my family, make sure they're set back in school, and get into sports as well.
I know you had told me a couple times this year, on the field before the game that you thought, this would probably be it. I guess I want to go to the Jacksonville game in the playoffs and you coming out there and, I was primarily like the swing inside guy in my career. I think I started 25 games, playing like 45, but I never started the opener. Like it was always like somebody got hurt and I came in and I played the rest. So anytime the last couple of years when you've gotten in the game, I know what that's like. And I've just been so proud of you and so happy that you got it done both times. Did that give you any pause? Like, man, I can still do this. Like, it was so fun to be out there and 98-yard touchdown drive. Did that have any impact on you one way or the other? Like, hey, I can still do it. I should keep doing it. Or, boy, that'd be a pretty cool way to go out.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, when you get in there and you can do things like that, I still feel like I can do it. I don't think my arm will ever change. I mean, obviously, when I'm 50, I might have hell of a lot of arthritis in there, but at the same time, I feel like I can spin the ball at any given moment and go out there. But it's just a mindset, just knowing that my mind's free, that I've accepted retirement, and I can be happy with what I've done in my career.
How much did the playoff performances against Cleveland 2 years ago and against Jacksonville this year, how much do they mean to you? I mean, I know it's kind of fresh in your mind and you just won the Super Bowl and you just retired, but kind of when you reflect back, getting those two major opportunities and helping your team get to the Super Bowl.
I think those are the two biggest moments in my career. I mean, even when I started, I mean, there was some good games. There was obviously bad games, but those two moments will always resonate with me just because of what's on the line. I think you lose and you go home, and I was able to help the team at some point get us on to pass that level in that playoff game and move on. And this year especially get to the Super Bowl, so they'll always resonate with me. I think I'll be very proud with them. I think all the preparation that has gone into it shows that in those big moments, I was always prepared and was ready to go.
It really is unbelievable, Chad, when you think about the amount of time that you put in the last 5 years or whatever it was, really for those two moments, I mean, and I know you got a chance to play a little bit some other games, but like it's if you look at like time in versus time, but you were ready and you got it done. It is unbelievable. It can't be easy. And I think there's some guys that struggle as backup quarterbacks because it's hard for them to stay focused without kind of having the reward of playing in the games, right?
Yeah, I think a lot of guys accept the backup role. And I think my mental, thinking about it is that I never wanted to be a backup and I never accepted that. I always prepared like I was a starter. even like when Patrick's having all the success, I was like, heck, I need to compete and try to be the starter and try to make him better and make myself better. So each and every day I went into it knowing that I could be the starter. And obviously I knew knowing that I wasn't going to, but I still kept that mental aspect of it.
What has been the feedback from any of the guys, Patrick, or any of the coaches like Andy or Matt Nagy, your quarterback coach, or even Brett Veach, the GM? Have you talked with them? What did they say? Did they know that you were going to do that after the Super Bowl, or was that a surprise to them? And then have they said anything to you since then?
Yeah, I think it was a big surprise. I mean, the quarterback room kind of knew, but the coaching staff did, and I kind of kept that on the download just in case I did want to switch my mind or figure out what was going to happen next. But with exit meetings, I mean, Coach Reed was great. Obviously, the appreciation for both sides, but at the same time, he's like, well, if you ever want to get into coaching, if you ever, I mean, don't ever say never. You could come back. If we want to have you back, we'll definitely have you back. But it was those conversations through him, Eric Bieniemy, Matt Nagy, whether coaching or playing again, and it's just a mutual respect. Being with those guys for so long was definitely a tribute to them and myself.
Well, you mentioned coaching a couple times there. What's next for you?
Well, go back to Pennsylvania, settle down, obviously get the kids back in school. But my mindset right now is to hopefully start training quarterbacks in the area and kind of just put my resume out there and see if we have any fillers. I mean, I think it should go well there. I love the mindset of Pennsylvania kids back home. And just, I have so much knowledge that I feel like it would go to waste if I'm not involved in football.
When you say kind of go back and put your resume out there, I mean, obviously everybody knows who you are, where we're from, and I would imagine you'd be able to train a lot of quarterbacks. And certainly we can talk offline because with Go Big Recruiting, I can certainly help spread the word about what you're doing. When you say put resume and feelers out there, though, are you talking about maybe coaching at a level higher than that at some point, or you just mean in terms of getting quarterbacks to be able to train?
Yeah, just getting quarterbacks to train, and obviously, being in the tri-state area, it's like, we're at the beach, we're at the shore. It's easy to go there. There's a couple fields there that I can train kids from New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, and just hopefully, I can teach some kids some knowledge that I've had over the years and help them become better quarterbacks and better people.
So let's talk about your career. 15 years, 3 more than you were looking for. Obviously, you made great money and all that stuff. You were a starter earlier in your career, and then you were a backup, which, by the way, is I think kind of how it is for most guys that end up becoming backups. It's like they got the experience and started earlier in their career. When you look back on it, Chad, I don't know the right way to ask this question, but how do you look back on your career? Did you exceed expectations, meet expectations? Look, you were like one of the top high school players in the country and you went to Michigan. I don't know, maybe you thought you'd start for 20 years and be like Brady and win. I don't know. I don't know what you were thinking going into your career. And I think that's what's interesting, right? Is that, like, for me as an undrafted guy, 7 years I exceeded it. With some guys, I was talking with Christian Ponder about this recently. He was a first-round pick that played 6 years, so that's looked at a little bit differently. How do you look at your career?
Well, I mean, first off, exceeding expectations for playing for 15 years, I think, is definitely something you can be proud about. I would never change my career how it went. I mean, the adversity I faced, all the learning experiences, the networks, the people that I've been around, I would never change that for the world. There's so many good people in this business and so many people I learned from. But at the same time, personally, I mean, obviously, yeah, I mean, I was a 4-year starter in high school, 4-year starter in Michigan. There's a lot of success earlier on in my career. And then I'm thinking, heck, I can do this in the NFL and be successful in that as well, personally. But sometimes it didn't go that way. And, that's where I kind of look back and say, man, maybe I could have done something different. It's tough. And the NFL, you have to be surrounded by the right people. And I felt like I was never the quarterback to say I can take over a team and lead them by myself, like a Patrick Mahomes, like a Andrew Luck, like one of those guys that had success so early on and they could do that by themselves. I felt like I had a great running game, had people around me that could help me and improve me that way. So I definitely feel like, yeah, there's some, things that I wish I would have done that way, but at the same time, 15 years and all the relationships that I've had is one that I'll always remember.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, man, it's a unbelievable career. There's no question. And, I say it all the time, careers are really a product of situation and circumstance a lot.
Sure.
Very much so. And for you to do what you did, it's incredible. Really appreciate the time. Looking forward to connecting, whether it's in Pennsylvania or at the beach this summer. Thank you so much for coming on the show, man. Go get your kids to school.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
There he is, Chad Henne. What an interesting career. Awesome guy. Really, really proud of him, like I said. And I have more to say, by the way, about yesterday's interview as well. Not many people go from on a Tuesday having someone on who didn't watch the Super Bowl to the next day having on a quarterback who helped his team win the Super Bowl. And not many people then follow it up by telling you about ExpressVPN, which is the best VPN on the market. Here's why. Number one, ExpressVPN doesn't log your activity online. Lots of the other cheap or free VPNs make money by selling your data to advertisers. That's one of the whole things you're trying to avoid. Number two, speed. ExpressVPN uses Lightway, a VPN protocol they engineered to make user speeds faster than ever. Very important, by the way. Very important. If you ever tried another VPN that's slow, it's extremely frustrating. Look, there's a reason why CNET, Business Insider, The Verge, all the other tech journals rate ExpressVPN the number one VPN in the world. Protect yourself with the VPN that I use and trust. Pretty much turn it on all the time. Use my link, expressvpn.com/Tucker today, and you'll get an extra month, 3 months free on their 1-year package, which is awesome. That's expressvpn.com/Tucker. Visit expressvpn.com/Tucker to learn more.
Tuck's Takes.
All right, Ross, we'll start with the franchise and transition tag window opening in NFL.
Right. I think some of the big names include Lamar Jackson. I mean, he's going to get tagged. Deron Payne, I think from the Commanders, like 100% chance or 99.8% chance he gets tagged. Maybe Orlando Brown. The Giants are going to tag somebody, probably Daniel Jones. So I don't really know why they have it be a 2-week window anymore. Most of you guys know the franchise tag. I don't even remember what the exact is. It's like it pays you the average of the top 5 guys at your position for 1 year. It's fully guaranteed. But it's only 1 year, and it's only 1 year fully guaranteed. So I'm not a fan of it. I believe that when your contract expires, that you should be able to have employment where you choose to have employment. You should be a free agent. I am aware that it's been collectively bargained between the players and the owners. I get it. Not a fan. I mean, that to me, that goes against what the United States is supposed to be about. But again, it was negotiated. I understand it. I just wish these guys had the opportunity to live and work where they want to live and work based on who wants to employ them.
Tuck's Takes.
Some special team coordinator news around the NFL. The Browns move on from their special team coordinator, Mike Prefer, while the Rams hired Chase Blackburn as coaching movement continues around the NFL.
Right. I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, it's February 22nd. Some of these teams, like the Browns, didn't even make the playoffs. And so they've been done for, 5-6 weeks? And now they're making these decisions? I always wonder what goes into that. Like, what happened now that they're making these decisions to fire somebody? that something happened, or is it just a product of, hey, I think we can get somebody better? I don't know how that works. I got to think that the Browns, if they're doing this, kind of already know or knew who they wanted to bring in. There's not another real logical explanation.
Tuck's Takes.
49ers quarterback Brock Purdy is delaying his surgery on his UCL because of inflammation.
Right. That's not good. That's not good. I mean, I've read these reports, and I have not seen what Dr. Chow at Pro Football Doc or SportsInjuryCentral.com. I have not read what they've said about this. You guys know I'm a big fan of that website and the information you get from it. I have not read what they've said about this as of yet, but there's no way you can say this is good. I mean, it's been what? Over 3 weeks now, at least, since the injury? And he still has too much inflammation for them to even do the surgery? And I've read the insiders saying they're going to circle back in early March and he still should be on track for training camp. Yeah. Let me be the first to say I doubt it. Just judging by what Dr. Chow has said, I tend to doubt it. And it's a shame. Had an unbelievable rookie year. It's a great story. And now the Niners might have to seriously consider their options at quarterback with Lance and Purdy both coming off these injuries.
Tuck's Takes.
David Carr says his brother Derek Carr will have a long free agency process.
I find that interesting because really, if you're Derek Carr, don't you want to sign with somebody before free agency starts, before other guys are available? I guess the other guys that are kind of in his category or in his class in terms of being a legitimate starter like Lamar Jackson and Daniel Jones are both going to be tagged anyway, so he doesn't really need to worry much about them. I thought it was interesting. Our guy, Andrew Brandt, the host of the Excellent Business of Sports podcast, said that his translation or Brantlation for this one was that he hasn't gotten any good offers yet, which I think is interesting. We'll have to see what ends up happening. He's visited the Panthers and the Jets so far. Jets are probably, waiting to see whether or not – I'm sorry, the Saints and the Jets, not the Panthers. The Saints and the Jets, although he might visit the Panthers. I tend to think that the Jets want to see what the deal is with Rodgers first before they would make a move with Carr.
Tuck's Takes.
The Seattle Seahawks signed right guard Phil Haynes to a 1-year, $4 million contract, while the Packers running back Aaron Jones reworked his contract, entailed a $5 million minimum pay cut from the $16 million he was supposed to make.
Did we talk about Aaron Jones' contract yet? I can't remember.
I don't believe we did.
So Aaron Jones reworked his contract, and, his agent told the insiders he's still the second highest paid running back or third for this year because he's making $11 million. But he was supposed to make $16 million. And he just took a straight $5 million pay cut. And by the way, even the $11 he's supposed to make, a bunch of that's tied into per game roster bonuses. So if he's not able to play in some of those games, he loses even more money. This does not bode well for all the running back. It's interesting, Jack. There are no good receivers on the free agent market. And then you look and see who's available at running back, and there's a lot. Saquon and Miles Sanders and other guys. But this is not good for them ahead of free agency that Jones has already taken a pay cut like this. What is good for them ahead of free agency is that Labatt Blue is delicious. And as they get ready to celebrate their new contracts, whatever they sign, they can do it with cold Labatt Blue Light in their hand. That's what you want to do. Celebrate your new contract with friends, family, live life to the power of we. Always enjoy responsibly. It's beer. Labatt USA, Buffalo, New York. We have time for an email, Jack, at least one.
Ever wanted to ask an NFL player a question? Well, here's your chance. It's time to Ask Ross.
The email address is ross@rosstucker.com. You guys know you can always hit me up at that email address for anything. In fact, I get a bunch of potential advertisers that want to advertise on the show will email me there, or speaking engagements. I'm actually doing a speaking engagement at the Doubletree Hotel in Reading next Thursday for the Olivet Boys and Girls Club, which is a wonderful, wonderful organization. That'll be next Thursday night. Also, my birthday. By the way, Jack, write that down. March 2nd, my birthday. I'll be 44. Wow, that sounds old. And anyway, I'll be doing that next Thursday night. If you ever need me for a speaking engagement, ross@rosstucker.com. And of course, if you ever take advantage of any of our sponsors, you go right to the top of the email list, and we guarantee to read and respond to your email. Just, take your screenshot of the ExpressVPN or your picture of the Labatt Blue Light or whatever. Send it to me, ross@rosstucker.com, with your email, and you'll get answered right away. By the way, Jack, yesterday's interview with Maddie Levy, that might be one of the most polarizing interviews we've ever done, just based on the tweets we've gotten. I mean, half the people, if you look at Twitter, @RossTuckerNFL or @RossTuckerPod, half the people are like, Ross, one of my favorite episodes you've ever done. That was hilarious. That was entertaining. That was interesting. And then the other half, why did you do this, Ross? Why? That was terrible. I don't know how you could think it was terrible. I mean, I guess if you have an open mind, I don't know how you could think it's terrible. I don't care that she doesn't like football. It doesn't affect my life at all. I just think it's interesting because I am so consumed with it. I'm obsessed with it. I love it. I talk about it every single day of my life. That to talk with someone that doesn't care at all, I just think it's an interesting perspective. Keeps things in check for all of us a little bit. And I thought it was very entertaining to hear what she does. I mean, she still makes like a buffalo chicken dip, even though she doesn't watch Super Bowl. The whole thing I thought was hilarious. But if you didn't like it, I'm sorry. Those of you that loved it, I'm glad you loved it. That's kind of what the idea was supposed to be. Let's get to the email.
So this one is from Dave, I think it's a Stadelman from Denver, Colorado. He says, "Hi, Ross. First of all, love the Ross Tucker Football Podcast and congrats on the Labatt Blue sponsorship. I found your podcast earlier this year via Dan Patrick, and I enjoy listening regularly now. And Lord knows those Canadians can serve up a mighty refreshing Pilsner. So now I'm making Labatt Blue my Pilsner of choice. As a Penn State alum, I'm curious to know if you were recruited by Penn State before you went off to Princeton. Do you have any Joe Paterno moments to share? If not, I'm also a Patriots fan, so I'll settle for any Belichick, Kraft, or any other Patriot anecdote."
Awesome, Dave. Good question. So I grew up, Dave, a huge Penn State fan with Penn State season tickets, actually. And so I met Paterno multiple times as a little boy and got his autograph and got my picture taken with him. And in Pennsylvania, that was about as high of a person you could meet, was Joe Paterno. So I got 2 handwritten letters from Penn State, to my recollection. And they were both from Jerry Sandusky, who's in jail now for some horrible, horrible things. Some of you might not be aware. Dave, you definitely are. The first one was asking me to go to summer camp. They wanted me to come to camp. Thought I was a good enough prospect that they wanted to check out at camp. I didn't want to do that because I knew I wouldn't run a good 40 time and that they wouldn't want me as a result of that. In hindsight, probably should have gone and given it a chance. And then they also wrote me another letter about maybe walking on, but never actually called me. I never actually talked to anybody. And so that is one thing, Dave, you'll appreciate. I have a pretty good relationship with the Penn State coaching staff now, including James Franklin. And I've been very clear with them and him in particular that I think they could do a really good job with their preferred walk-ons. I think they have guys like Jan Johnson and Isaac Lutz from my hometown. Same hometown as Chad Henne, by the way. And, the point I make to them is like if Paterno had called me and said, Ross, we don't have a scholarship right now, but I want you to come to Penn State, be on the team, be a Penn State football player, that would have been tough for me to turn down. Like if they had actually pitched me or sold me on it at all, would have been very tough to turn down. But they never did, so it made it easy. I probably still would have gone to Prince anyway, to be honest. But you never know. Joe Paterno calls you 1996. Might be feeling a little bit differently. Good question, Dave. Love them. Keep them coming, please. Ross at rosstucker.com. Include the sponsors. Love that. Shout out to Pizza Boy Brewing, Sporticulture, HumanHeadNYC.com, SteakhouseSports.com, Go-Bengals.com, Evergreen Economics, BackOfficeSchedule.com, and by far the greatest gift you can give any loved one ever, I can assure you, MyFrontPageStory.com. Even money with Fezzik yesterday talking about XFL and NFL futures was really entertaining. And then we'll have the fantasy feast today. Joe Dolan will give you his biggest fantasy football lessons learned from this past season. If you play fantasy football, you're going to want to listen to that. I think we're done here.
Thanks for listening to the Ross Tucker Football Podcast. Make sure to also subscribe to the Fantasy Feast, Even Money, Business of Sports, and College Draft. All available at Apple Podcasts, rosstucker.com, or wherever podcasts can be found.